work for the California Health Incentives Improvement Project, but what I'm here today to share with you guys is really about my personal story of transitioning from high school to college to work. I have a type of muscular dystrophy called spinal muscular atrophy, so I have used a wheelchair since the age of 5. My parents did all my care for me as I was growing up, and the minute I graduated high school, I'm like, I need to get away from you guys. I love you, but I am ready to move on, and I'm ready to live my own life, and really be in control of my own life and my own destiny. So as I was approaching high school graduation, I was connected with the Department of Rehabilitation. Who here has heard of Department of Rehab? Okay, we've got quite a lot of hands going up. So I think I was really lucky in that they were connected to me while I was still in high school, and I found out that they could pay for my college. They also paid for some equipment for me that I needed in college. And so they also really pushed me to start volunteering while I was in high school. So I volunteered at our local hospital as a candy striper. I don't even know if they still have those anymore, but I was a candy striper, and it was just really getting my feet wet and figuring out what I wanted to do. And it really was something to put on a college application. So I think encouraging volunteerism is really important. And so I graduated, I got into UC Berkeley, and that was really the pathway to my independence because they have a program called the Disabled Students Residence Program, and that program provides 24-hour-a-day personal care assistance while you're going to school there for the first year. Department of Rehab paid for all of that. I personally believe that my transition from living at home, having my parents do all of my care, to living independently would have been a lot harder if I didn't have that program. So they really taught me how to manage my own attendance, explain what I needed, and really direct my own care. So they also had a class that taught me how to hire and manage my own personal care attendants for when I was ready to hire my own. So it's hard. It's really hard to learn how to be a manager, how to hire people, how to give them feedback if things aren't going the way that you want them to be going. So that was really important for me. They also let me know about in-home supportive services, and in-home supportive services pays for personal care attendants. It provides me funding to hire people. So that for me was a really important program. I would not be able to pay out of pocket for my personal care attendants. So I have since hired all of my personal care attendants primarily through Craigslist, which is an online community bulletin board. And I know Craigslist has gotten some bad raps lately, but honestly, I have lucked out tremendously from hiring people through Craigslist. Most of the people that work for me have never done personal care attending ever. I kind of like it that way because then I can train them exactly how I want my care to go. And again, I've had a lot of luck. I will usually ask as a screener, I'll tell people, are you able to pass a background check? And the people are very honest. I mean, you'd be surprised. I'm sure there are some people out there who are not honest, but I've had good luck in screening people out that way. I've also put ads up in nursing schools or medical assisting schools, letting people know that I'm looking for attendance. It's a good job for students. That's what I found. I have an hour in the morning, sometimes 2 hours in the morning, an hour in the afternoon, and an hour at night, and that's pretty much what I'm looking for. And it's hard to find people who are willing to be that flexible and willing to come for such a short amount of time. But again, I've been really lucky with hiring students. So once I got my attendant care down pat and got that all sorted out, I really, was focusing on school and focusing on graduating. and I went to talk to our local community college, the career center at my college, and they really encouraged me to start working. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm trying to go to school. I'm trying to graduate here. And I couldn't find time. I didn't think that it was possible for me to work while I was in school. So what I did was I started volunteering. Again, I think volunteering is a great way to build your resume, really figure out what you want to do. So I worked as a peer mentor for other students with disabilities. That was really a great experience for me, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to work with people with disabilities. So that went really well, and it was part-time on my own time. It was whenever I had time. And that flexibility was what I really needed while I was going to school. I also surveyed campus paths for accessibility, again, making me realize that the disability field was something that I was really interested in and what I wanted to pursue. So I'm getting ready to graduate, and I'm realizing, oh gosh, I gotta find a job now. And it was kind of a scary experience. And I heard a lot of people talking about things. I was on SSI, so I was living on $870 a month, which is not easy to do. And I knew I didn't want to live, or I couldn't live on SSI forever. I wanted to go on vacations. I wanted to shop. I really enjoy shopping. So I'm like, I do not want to live on $870 a month. So, but really what I was worried about was, how do I keep my Medi-Cal? For me, I need medical care, and I also need my in-home supportive services funding for all my personal care attendants, which is tied to Medi-Cal. So I knew that I needed to keep that until I could earn enough money to be able to afford my personal care attendants. So I was really worried about that, and I heard people tell me, oh, you can't work, 'cause the minute you work, you're gonna lose everything. And that's not always the case. I mean, in very select situations, yeah, you may lose some benefits, and if you're not prepared for what's gonna happen, you may have to pay money back, as we heard in the video. But if you are diligent about reporting your income, and if you really plan ahead for how working may impact your benefits, you're gonna be okay. So I visited a benefits planner in my community, and we'll also walk you through the resources too related to benefits planning. But I went and talked to a benefits planner at my local independent living center, and he really explained to me how I could work and keep my Medi-Cal. It's through a special program through SSI called 1619B. I was working enough. I earned too much money to be able to get SSI. So, am I almost out of time?
You are. I think she waited.
Oh, no. Okay, so really quickly, planning ahead is key, and there are resources out there like trained benefits planners, as well as a website called Disability Benefits 101, which has a ton of information, and there is information in there in your packet. So I'm cut off.
Well, my story is somewhat similar to Rachel's. I too have a neuromuscular disease that mine, I think, progressed a little faster than Rachel's, so that by the time I got to high school or college, I probably needed more care than she does. But I want to take a step backwards and kind of begin in my early childhood. And I don't know how many of you in here are parents. Okay, a lot of hands. I have to say that for myself, my independence started there. My mother, I don't know if God just looked down and picked her out as the perfect parent of a child with a disability, but there was a certain part of her that just knew if I was going to make it on my own in this world, there were certain things I had to do. So from early on, I had my chores to do. I remember having to wheel around the living room and dust, which probably took me an hour. She could have done it in 5 minutes. I remember having to do dishes. She would have to take all the glassware and the pots and pans out and sit me in a bar stool with just the plasticware. Again, that probably took her 10 times longer than if she had just done the dishes on her own. One time, I will say, it got slippery and my elbow slipped and I went in face first into the water, and she decided at that point I didn't have to do dishes anymore. My only regret is that I didn't figure that out sooner. So I really credit her with that piece to give me the self-esteem and the desire, or the self-esteem to accept myself as who I was, and the desire to just be part of the group. Second came my friends and my neighbors. We were raised in a very small town, and my friends just, it was no big deal. They would come and get me in the morning, and off we'd go. I had a special chair designed that they could push, and at one point we had a tree house about a block behind our yard, and we went down, and I wanted to go in the tree house. So they tied a rope around my chair, and 5, 6, 7-year-olds hoisted me up into the treehouse. And when I came home, this was another really wonderful setup from my mom. And she'd say, "Oh, where were you?" And I'm like, "Oh, we were playing at the treehouse." She'd say, "What did you do?" And I was like, "Oh, I climbed a tree." She was like, "How did you do that?" And so I told her, and she, rather than freaking out, which I think most moms or dads would probably do, she was like, "Well, that's really good, but I don't think you should climb trees anymore." So I was like, okay, because she hadn't made it, such a big deal. I went on to middle school, and by middle school age, 7th and 8th grade, most of my friends had already learned to do my care. And that was a huge piece into breaking away from the family, as Rachel has so eloquently described. My friends did everything for me. And it was funny because my mom started to use that. When I wanted to shave my legs or get my ears pierced, her deal was I could do it as long as my friends took care of it. So, So I went through middle school with, again, my friends carrying me. Slumber parties could not have happened if my friends didn't know how to do my care. So all of that played an integral part in becoming independent. When I got to high school, it was kind of interesting because while my friends were nurturing independence, I had a counselor both at my first high school and at my second that told me that even though I was an AB student in high school, that I really shouldn't expect to do well in college, because college was much more demanding. And so what I learned probably by the end of high school was how low the expectations actually were if you were someone with a disability. So I don't know, and I can even say now that not only do I think expectations are low, I think in many cases there are no expectations beyond school age. I went to college. Rachel was very lucky to have a place where she could find caregivers. We didn't have that. I went to Arizona State, and so my mom went down to school with me, and the first girl we met who was struggling looking for work to pay for her dorm fee, my mom and dad offered to pay for her dorm fee if she would be my caregiver, and she jumped at it. I, like Rachel, agree. I don't so much like folks that have a lot of training, because then they think they know the way it should be done, and it's not always the way I want it to be done. So I've had students in college that were math majors and history majors, and so medical wasn't a necessary piece. Once I graduated from college, employment all of a sudden became the challenge. There I was. I had a bachelor's degree in communication disorders and a master's degree in rehabilitation, because back in the day I'm considerably older than Rachel, and back then every time you wanted to go to college you were directed to go into the field of rehabilitation, which was then so saturated that just probably wasn't the direction to go. But anyhow, I went on many an interview and didn't get hired. And so I really began to wonder, And in my heart, I believe there was even an element of discrimination at that space. I mean, even though DOR is supposed to help people get jobs, and they have a lot of people working for them with disabilities, I don't know how many people with severe disabilities actually work for Department of Rehab. I saw a lot of folks that were wheelchair users that could still drive and manipulate themselves in terms of pushing themselves around. Of course, then if you look at the beginning of rehab, we had Ed Roberts in there. I don't know how many of you know who he was. He was considered the father of independent living movement, and he was severely disabled, using an iron lung, and yet he became the director of rehab. But once his passing came about, I think the discrimination still existed. I went on to, I had 2 children, and while they were little, one of my biggest fears was that they would get made fun of for having a mom who had a disability. So from preschool on, I started going to their schools, getting to know the kids, getting them comfortable with who I was, and in doing so, realized that that was the trick. If you could hit them when they were young, you eliminated so much discrimination and so many attitude barriers, and that's when I decided I wanted to go into teaching. And unbelievable, as wonderful as special education is, and as great as it is for taking care of children with disabilities, once you reach that 22-year-old mark, they wash their hands of you. And so here I was, fully credentialed, and went on interview after interview, and it was at the time when teaching was so desperate, and they were bringing in teachers from out of country, providing emergency credentials right and left, and I couldn't get hired. I even tried applying at the prison system, because the prisons hire elementary school teachers to teach, and couldn't even get hired at the prison system. Tried private schools, who were so excited to hear that a credentialed teacher was applying, until they learned of my disability, at which time all of a sudden there was no availability. I went on to even have a lawsuit, decided to fight for myself, because if I didn't fight for myself, nobody else was going to. Worst experience in my life. Took 3 years and made a little bit of money, but basically the school district said, don't come back to us. That was part of their settlement, and it was tough. Got my first opportunity to have my real job when I was 45 years old for the independent living movement. I was hired as a program manager for an independent living center, and then I went on a fast track. I was a program manager for 9 months, became the interim executive director. For 3 months, became the executive director, which I did for 3 years, or 2 years after that. Then was offered the deputy director position for the state council, and then after a year of that, was offered the position as chief deputy, so I guess I was another fast track. So sadly, discrimination is still out there, as strong as ever. The unemployment rate for people with disabilities is still 70%. When you look at all other minority groups, it's at least gone down over the last 10 years. Ours has not. When you look at people with developmental disabilities, it's even higher. It's 85 to 90% unemployment rate. And this isn't because this group doesn't want to work. It isn't because there aren't jobs out there that they could do. It still has to do, I believe in my heart, as an attitude issue. I also believe that a big part lies in you, the parents. I think somewhere along the line, parents get convinced that their child is just never going to be able to do anything, and therefore they set out to protect them. And I have to tell you, as a mother myself, I know that my first goal is to protect my children from hurt and harm, and so I can understand that piece. But also as a parent, my word of advice to you all is to let go as much as you can let go, and have high expectations. Even if they don't reach them, you have to at least have them and give them the opportunity. So in all of that, I guess that's really my story, and I think I'm probably at time as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Tammy.
Uh, Basically, what I'm going to tell you today is I didn't have my presentation because I didn't have my computer, and it was like, no, I'll do it off the cuff. I'm good at that anyway. So, what I'm going to tell you, I was adopted into a family at 18 months old, and my parents that wanted me, they had a son, and they didn't want to end up with another son. They wanted one of each. So I was the chosen one. And so my dad died in 2001, of March 7th of 2001. He passed away. My mother's still living, and she's been in and out of the hospital, but, you know, sometimes it goes like that because she's getting older, and I know that. And then I've gotten into going for 3 years to kind of being an intern at the State Duty Council office for a 3-year program through our school, McClaskey Adult Center. And now I am hired with the state, and I work with Laurie as my boss and do different projects there. But really what happened is I went through school having a disability and didn't know exactly what was going on. And I was always called mental retarded. Well, I decided one time, we went to SSI and they called me mental retarded. And I said, I can play a game with them. I'm going to play, you're not so good in my book because you don't really understand me. So I played this game. They said I was mentally retarded, so I said, okay, I'm going to give them a challenge. I'm going to act that way and just see what they do. I want to see their body language. So I did it. And then I finally said, you know what? They don't know me like they should know me. They didn't give me a chance. They just said, this is what your name is. It's not Tammy, it's you're retarded. So I said, well, okay, well, that's not a fun thing to be. So I'm going to turn the table around on them and show them something else I can do. So I sat there and they'd say questions and I didn't understand none of the stuff they were talking about. And I just kind of sat there and went, yeah, oh, okay, that's fine. But, you know, they won't know. And that was the start of life and going to McClaskey Adult Center and being in a class with disabled people, my own peers. They had different disabilities. Well, now what I'm doing is I'm trying, between my job, I'm trying to go into advocacy because I took an advocacy training program, partners in policy making, and I graduated from there. Well, as we were talking and going to different meetings occasionally to it, I decided, no, you know what? I kind of like my job, but that's really not my avenue where I need to be at. I need to be out there with the disabled people, speaking for them that cannot speak, being there if they want to get a job, and finding something that they can do in the world that makes them happy so that they can earn money. And so I decided to do that, and I'm occasionally working on those things as they come and making stuff user-friendly for everyone. So the document I have in front of me, you will have in front of you. Because then that way we're on the same page and we can talk together and get communication to work better. So I'm still working on that. I have a few things that I do for that. And then just being at the job and trying to do what I can. And I do have trouble with some of the things, but now they've decided that we're going to have a job coach work with me for a while so I can get the hang of what we're trying to do. But in the long run, eventually before I ever retire, my goal is to be an advocate for pay and to be there for support in any way, shape, or form. Any of my friends that are disabled, I tell them, call me. Call me. We'll find out exactly what's going on. And if I have to and you want me at your IPP, all you have to do is call me and make an appointment with me, and I'll go to it. I'm not scared of any of them. I can talk maybe better than you can, or your communication is not so great, but you need a buddy to be there to get it across to them. This is what I want. It's my program. You work for me. I don't work for you. And you got to remember that. That's exactly what's supposed to be done. And I've been getting stronger, being an advocate, and learning all about it. But my whole idea to share with you guys that I would like to go out and train people that have been trained to work with us, but some of them don't know how, and retrain them so we're all in communication together so it works smoother and it's not so traumatic for either us or the workers that are working with us. That they need to pay attention to what we say because we know what we want. But some of them want to run our lives. No, we've got to stop that. We can't let them do it because otherwise we're not going to get anywhere. It'll just be like being at home with your parents. You're not moving out. You're not living on your own. You're just staying with mom and dad. Well, you know, mom and dad's okay, but, you know, I need to venture. It took my mom a long time to let me venture when the school started saying she needs to get independent. She needs to be in her own place. She needs to learn about life. What happens to you when you die? How's she going to accept it? How's she going to be able to get in the community and do anything? She won't be able to because she won't know how. It was scary. It was traumatic. But I made it through that. And I'm one of those success stories. But I'm not going to quit just because everybody says, oh, you can't do that. No. Mm-mm. Don't tell me that. Because if you tell me that, I'm going to get mad enough to prove it to you that I can do it. And I'm going to do it. And you don't have any say-so over it. And being able to, I'm in a church now that has where they're letting me be on the worship team. I can't read that well, but I can figure it out enough if I hear the music that I can work with the words on what's on the CD and then go and deliver what we need to deliver. And I'm not scared of that. But it took me a long time to get the choir director to say, oh, I didn't know that. Well, if you do it this way, then I can join you. So I'm getting there. I haven't got to solos yet. I can do them, but I haven't got to talking to her to get that part in the whole aspect like it should be. But I'm working on it. I don't give up. My computer's in the fix-it shop, so today I'm without my computer that has a program, Win, on it. It's for work and it's for home, so that I can communicate and be able to have things read to me so that I can put down my own little notes and be able to speak. I'm learning to write. I can't write a letter. I write thoughts down, I write ideas, but I can't get it in letter form yet. Well, that's part of work. You know, I'm going to have to probably do some letters at work, so I need to start learning that. I've got a real nice ISL worker for independent living, and she's backing me, and one day she didn't have enough, we didn't have hours. She said, I made an appointment with him, and I'm not going to let her be without that appointment because she counts on me to be there, and she does what we need to do. And she even told her boss that. Now, that was pretty neat. She wasn't going to get the money for it, but she didn't care. We had arranged a time to get together, so she's going to put that time in, although she didn't get paid.
Okay, Tammy.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
The UC Davis Mind Institute began in 1998 with a promise to find cures for neurodevelopmental disorders. Every day, our physicians and researchers come closer to fulfilling that promise. Their groundbreaking research on autism, Fragile X syndrome, learning disabilities, and other brain disorders is helping children achieve their fullest potential. Please call or visit our website to find out more about current studies, our research team, and upcoming events.